Hello, my friends. Today is day 200. Can we just take a minute to celebrate 200 days of reading God's word every single day? Man, congratulations. You've made it 200 out of the 365 or maybe 366 days, depending on how many days are in this year. But big kudos to you. We're reading 2 Kings chapter 18 and 2 Chronicles chapter 29 through chapter 31 and also Psalm chapter 48. But before we get into our recap today, I want to take an opportunity to thank you for checking out the video, and hopefully you are enjoying the yearly Bible reading program. If you have not yet accepted the invitation to be a part of this incredible group, I'd like for you to check out the description box below, and there you will find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of readers reading the Bible every single day and leaving feedback on the things that they are reading and learning. I believe it'll be a great blessing to you, and I know it'll be a blessing to us to have you a part of the group. So here we are today reading about another one of the kings, and we are reading about the King Hezekiah. And what an incredible king, what an incredible leader. He seemingly got the point of what it was or what it meant to be a king. A number of things happened in today's reading that we could call attention to. And I'm so glad that they didn't read further, because you just got to break Hezekiah's life up at least over 2 days, so you can just really think about the way God moved and just showed himself in the life of Hezekiah. One of the things we understand from today's reading, and we'll get to understand more, but the thing we understood about today's reading and about his life in particular is the way in which he dedicated himself to what I call revival, but the Bible calls it more of a reform, right? And, you know, man, I know I may sound like a broken record on this point, but I just cannot ignore how necessary it is for us to have and experience what we're reading in these chapters. What we're reading, and I want us to be very, very observant of the things we're reading. What we're reading requires a lot of courage. And one of the things that someone told me this, one of my good friends, we were in a Bible study together, and he mentioned this. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but what he did mention to me is, I think I was alluding to the fact, I need clarity, I need direction, I need to know what it is that I need to do regarding a particular thing. And I remember so clearly him saying, I think we all most times know what to do, but what we need to pray for is courage. We need to pray and ask the Lord to give us courage. And so one of the things that I've discovered is two things are absolutely needed whenever in life in general, but particularly when we're faced with times like what we're reading in the book of Chronicles and Kings, and then what we're experiencing in our own life. You obviously need clarity on what it is you should do in the world, the impact you should have. But the other two things I think that are equally important is conviction, that is the recognition of a particular value or belief that motivates the way you live your life. So you need to have an understanding, but you also need a conviction, that thing that happens on the inside that causes you to say, irregardless of what's happening around me, my commitment is to these set of beliefs or these values, et cetera, et cetera. But then after that, you need courage. You got to figure out, what will it take for me to act on what I am convicted by and what I understand to be true. And so when I read particularly in our reading for today, one of the things that stands out to me, I think, in the book of Chronicles regarding Hezekiah's life is obviously his understanding of who he was and what his role was, what responsibilities were delegated to him as a king. But then I think he just demonstrated tremendous courage. And you see this by observing all the things he did. He reopens the temple. He takes the temple and rededicates it. He implements the Passover. Um, and he does all sorts of other reforms as far as structuring or restructuring, should we say, the necessary things within the southern side of Israel to begin worshiping the way that they are supposed to worship. And none of these things came without hostility and all sorts of opposition. I mean, it was not obviously an easy road. This would have been hard, but he was convicted by something. It says here that in verse 2, he did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestor David had done. I'm moved to believe that what might have been a influence or maybe even a conviction for him was the example of David. And so here's the thing. When we're reading through these passages, I'm praying and I'm hoping that the individuals we're reading about are in some way inspiring all of us so that they become somewhat of sort of like heroic figures, not in the sense that we idolize them, but we use them to be inspirations to us about how we should live and address certain issues in our life. And I'm telling you, man, that's hard. That's going to be hard if you don't have a conviction and if you don't have the ability to live with the results that God deals whenever you decide to live for him and take up your cross, right? But I mean, this is just an incredible example of what real revival looks like. In fact, in chapter 29, he was just so committed to making sure that they upheld everything that was expected of them. You see, he says in chapter 29, verse 11, "My sons, do not neglect your duties any longer. The Lord has chosen you to stand in his presence, to minister to him, and to lead the people in worship and present offerings to him." Then the Levites got right to work. He was a motivator. Oh man, Lord, help us to capture some of these qualities. I'm just sitting here thinking about me personally. I don't have any room to point fingers at anyone or at all look across the fence in anyone's yard. But man, I'm just looking in my own backyard. I'm looking in the depths of my own heart. And I'm telling you that there has to be, speaking for myself, a fire lit, which can probably only come by reading passages like what we read this week, but more specifically today, right? The ability to motivate, encourage, and contagiously cause people to understand their role in participating in the things that God is doing in their world. May the Lord set this world on fire with individuals who get what he's actually doing and want to be a part of it. I'm praying for that specifically for our city and for you as an individual studying God's word. So today was a good reading. I could go on and on. I feel like I'm just kind of, rambling. What I'm trying to say is that the collection of chapters that we read today were beautiful and that it motivated me to take the necessary steps to motivate the worship of God in this earth that we are so honored and blessed to live in. I think that's the ultimate goal. Now, we also read Psalm 48, okay, which was a song of Korah. And when you read the psalm here, you can see how this would fit directly in with what we're reading in the Chronicles and the Kings, being that there's an order of worship being restored and re-implemented. And this psalm being written by the descendants of Korah, you can see how this would be relevant to the time. Whether it was written at the time that we're reading about or some other time, you can see the significance of this particular psalm, especially when it says in verse 12, "Go inspect the city of Jerusalem, walk around and count the many towers. Take note of the fortified walls and tour all the citadels. that you may describe them to future generations. For that is what God is like. He is our God forever and ever, and he will guide us until we die. You can sense a sense of, you can sense a feeling, if you will, or an understanding of God's not only protection over the city, which stands at jeopardy of being ruined if they continue without a reform like the one we see in Hezekiah's state, reign, should we say? But this is a psalm that speaks of God's providence over his city, over his temple, over his people. And what better psalm, perhaps, than a psalm written by the tribes and their descendants who are being restored during a time where they were inactive and busy with other things that they shouldn't be concerned with. So you can see the relevance here and the importance of it. So the Psalms are properly fitted, if you will, or placed, maybe should I say, placed within this schedule to help us resonate with what's going on with the narrative. Okay, so let's keep reading. So much more to go, but we're getting great content, and we're in the thick of the history of Israel right now, and I pray that you're enjoying it. Let us know what you think in the comment box below. Leave your comments there, and I believe it'll be a blessing to many individuals. But until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.